Warning, this video contains spoilers, mainly of SpiderMan No Way Home. You have been warned. So in 2021, I didn't see a lot of movies in theaters, but I did watch quite a bit of them when I could. It's more, I like movies, I like watching them, but I'm like, I think I've said before, a one and done movie person where I can't watch more than one movie in a row. I just watch one and then I'm like kind of done. I can binge watch TV series, but not movies. It's very weird, but today we're going to take a look at the 5 worst movies I saw in 2021, the 5 best, and even give you 3 that aren't honorable or dishonorable mentions. They're just kind of like ones that I can't really decide on. Like, there might be things about them that I like, but for the most part, there might be also a lot that I don't like about them, which kind of just, I can't really put them on a separate list. They just kind of have me undecided with where to put them. And those are the ones that we're going to be starting off with today. And just before you ask, no, I haven't seen Dune. No, I haven't seen The Matrix, because I can care less. And, what was that other big movie that came out that I didn't see? I don't remember at this point. So yeah, if you don't see like a big popular movie on here, it's probably just because I haven't seen it and probably won't. Shang-Chi, that was the other one. I haven't seen that yet. It's on Disney Plus. I'll probably get to watching it sooner or later, but haven't seen it yet. So yeah. Anyway, let's start off with a Marvel movie in the undecided. That's Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage. I liked the first Venom movie, and it was very, very interesting what they were doing with Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock. But here in Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage, Woody Harrelson appears in this movie as Carnage, the red interpretation of Venom. And it just seems very weird. Like, this is a shorter Marvel movie at PG-13 rating, under 2 hours, but it just seems more like rom-com-y than it does anything else. Like, it's just really, really weird, and the fact that, spoiler alert, I'm going to put a spoiler alert at the beginning of the video because there's going to be some spoilers with some of these movies. Now that they're setting up for Tom Hardy not to be Venom anymore, hence the end credit scene in SpiderMan No Way Home, it's going to be interesting to see where this all gets taken after that. But yeah, Venom Let Them Be Carnage was same thing with Snake Eyes, the G.I. Joe story. The 2 G.I. Joe movies were god-awful. I mean, nothing beats the old cartoon. And even this movie, I had some hype for, because Snake Eyes was actually my favorite G.I. Joe character. You know, the fact that he's a troop, but he's more like ninja-like. I thought that was just pretty cool, and the fact that he doesn't talk makes it ominous and mysterious. Now, he does talk in this movie, and you get an explanation as to why he doesn't talk later down the line in the movie. But yeah, it just is what it was. It was okay, and I don't know why I expected more from it. It was just like, yeah, it was there, and it's going to be one of those movies where 10 years later it'd be like, oh yeah, that existed, I forgot about it, maybe I'll watch it again, I don't know. This might come as a surprise, but we have Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's just one of those things where putting it on a movie list in 2021 when it should have came out 4 years ago really was the reason I put it on the undecided list, because this is technically a 2017 film. They just released the Zack Snyder version in 2021 because the failure of the Joss Whedon version, people were pushing for this, and HBO Max and Warner Brothers said, okay, we'll do this, and everybody loves it. That, and to me, I know again this may seem just like a bad complaint, but it's too long. 4 hours? Like, that's 4 hours out of 24 in my day. So, I mean, yeah, granted, you have 20 hours to use, but you gotta think, you sleep for 8 of it. That means I only got about 8 hours to do something that I need to do. Like, the only way you can watch this movie is if you have, like, loads of free time on your list. At least to watch it all the way through. Nobody said you can't watch it in chunks, but I just remember saying, like, man, I want to watch this, but it has to be like on a day where I have like literally 0 to do and I can just sit down and watch it all the way through. So it's not that I had like a problem with it. It's just more, this movie shouldn't have came out this year. It should have came out 4 years ago. But you know how Warner Brothers gets really control-y with their movies sometimes. So, with the undecided out of the way, we are going to start off with the worst, because again, you always save the best for last. And the first one and the worst, we have the M. Night Shyamalan movie, Old. It's just another typical M. Night Shyamalan movie with some plot twist toward it. It's an island where supposedly you age quicker and you die quicker, and I guess you gotta try to find a way off that island in a short amount of time. It just, yeah, it wasn't that great. Then we have Home Sweet Home Alone. Talk about a movie that did not need a remake, heck, and didn't even need, I'll give the sequel its credit, Lost in New York, but after 2, it just needed to stop. And this remake just doesn't do anything for it. It was really, really bad. Then we have Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the animated Paramount Plus version. It's only an hour long, so calling it a movie might be unfair, but that's what it's categorized as, so that's why I put it on this list. I liked the original 3 live-action ones that came out. Those came out when I was a little younger, and the books weren't... I don't think there was as many books as there was at the time. Even the 4th live-action one that came out, like, 4 or 5 years later with different actors, I was like, meh, I still prefer the other 3, but this, I can understand why they're going more computer animated or just animated in general, because, you know, if you keep trying to pump in these child actors to do these movies, they're going to get older, and you'd have to do like Harry Potter, where you'd have to release one every year. So, you know, I can see why they went animated here, but they don't really do a good job. It mainly focuses off of stuff from the first book, and I don't know, it's something about it just fell flat more than the live-action version did. Then we have Injustice, Gods Among Us. DC could have done so much with this. You had 3 video games. You could have made this a trilogy of movies, been able to get everything you wanted in there with those 3 movies, but instead throughout its 76-minute runtime, you cram every little detail in there. You give Nightwing the worst death possible, and this weird thing between Harley and Green Arrow that's just kind of like weird and awkward. Like, it just feels like it doesn't belong. I still don't understand that. It annoys the hell out of me that they could have done so much with this great video game franchise and comic series, but instead they decided to butcher it in just a short movie. And lastly, Space Jam: A New Legacy. I'm gonna hit y'all with the God's honest truth here. The first Space Jam wasn't even that good. Let's be honest, we only praise it because it had the Looney Tunes in it, and at the time it had the best basketball player at the time, Michael Jordan, who's still the GOAT, but at the time he was like the profitable player. And now we get this one where it basically serves as a sequel to the original. Instead of Michael Jordan this time, it's LeBron James, you know, basically my generation's Michael Jordan. And although I will say, compare Michael Jordan's 6-0 in the finals and 6 MVPs in the finals to LeBron's 4-6 record, only having a 40% winning percentage in the NBA Finals, I would still say Jordan is the GOAT. But hey, you know what? It is what it is whatever. But yes, it just didn't need to be made at all. Like, I understand this could also be made again in the next 10-15 years when, like, the next LeBron James comes into play. Like, the next big NBA superstar is probably going to star in Space Jam 3, but it won't happen for a while. But I mean, obviously, when LeBron James kind of came in and became the basketball player he was, you knew eventually that we were going to get to this, and it just does nothing. Alright guys, the worst are out of the way, so now let's finish it off with the best, with one of my favorites, which was DC's The Suicide Squad. Now, this one, it's not that I didn't have high hopes for it, I was just worried about it before I even saw it, because, you know, with the way the first Suicide Squad kind of, you know, didn't tank, it just kind of, people saw it and they were like, oh my god, this is terrible. I was like, how can you play this off again, but this time make it better? You know, and instead of David Ayer, we got James Gunn, the Guardians of the Galaxy director, who kind of put his own little R-rated twist on it. Like, it's an R-rated movie, but he made it more comic booky than the other one, which kind of had like this, I don't know, darker tone to it, but it made it interesting, and he took these characters that we knew nothing about other than Rick Flag, Amanda Waller, and Harley Quinn, and made the characters likable, more likable than what we got in the first movie, and gave short and sweet backstories to some of them, and gave backstories to the ones that we pretty much needed to. Like, I wanted to know what happened to Polka Dot Man, why is he what he is, and Ratcatcher 2, what happened to Ratcatcher 1, and they explained that exactly perfectly throughout, and the comedy's there, the action's so much better, the script, it's easier to follow, like, just everything about it just triumphs over what the first Suicide Squad was, so I have to give it its credit where it's due. Next we have Last Night in Soho. Horror thrillers aren't necessarily my thing. I mean, I do love myself a Jordan Peele movie like Get Out or Us, but for the most, and The Shining of course, but for the most part, when I watch a horror movie, I don't want to have to, like, think or something like that. I just want to be like, okay, simple slasher, simple demon, whatever, you know, I like those types of horror movies. But this one actually did good. I think Anna Taylor-Joy does a good job in the role. I mean, when you look at her and the person she is, you wouldn't expect this darker role to really suit her, but she does an excellent job here showing off her acting chops, which I do think that she is a really good actor. She kind of acts in a lot of serious stuff, whether it's a show or movie, so she got to show off her horror side here and just did it with perfection. Next we have Free Guy, the Ryan Reynolds movie. Now look, I'm a big Ryan Reynolds fan, so I was going to see it regardless. Didn't see it in theaters, but bought it on DVD and watched it. You know what? I loved it. It's kind of, I don't want to say it's kind of like Pixels, because with Adam Sandler's Pixels, it's the video game world comes to the real world and they have to stop the video games from kind of, you know, overtaking the real world, this, that, and the other. In this, it's actually Ryan Reynolds plays a guy in a video game who is basically just a background character, but he gets tired of being a background character and doing the same thing over and over, so he tries to create an identity for himself to become the hero in the game and become the main character. And of course you get, you know, your typical Ryan Reynolds, you know, laughs throughout. Like, it's just like, when Ryan Reynolds is in a movie, there's going to be some sort of comedy involved. There's been a few of his that haven't. Like, in the remake of the Amityville Horror, can we give Ryan Reynolds his props for that? That was actually really good. But in most of his movies, the comedic aspect usually hits very well, and of course, just the story overall. I mean, it was a new, different idea that actually worked. Like, Hollywood wasn't trying to do a remake here, nobody was trying to recycle an idea that already happened. It was just something new, something different, and something interesting, and that's why I liked Free Guy so much. Then we have Red Notice. I mean, I didn't know, again, that Ryan Reynolds would star in 2 big movies this year, but Red Notice has become, I think, the highest, like, I don't want to say grossing, but like the highest viewed Netflix movie in a while. I mean, it had the highest budget. Like, it is definitely their biggest movie there that they have had since the platform moved to, you know, streaming and actually having straight to Netflix stuff. And him and Dwayne Johnson team up very well for this buddy cop movie, and Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman herself, actually plays the villain in this movie. Like, it's so weird when you see these actors or actresses that play a character where they're the heroic character and that's what you know them as, and then they go and play this villainous character. I mean, Mark Hamill, we knew him mostly as Luke Skywalker, but then you realize, oh, he also voiced the Joker too, and recently with Ewan McGregor, he went from being Obi-Wan Kenobi to being Black Mask in the Birds of Prey. So, you know, sometimes you live long enough to see your heroes be villains. Also, Michael Keaton, we've known him as Batman. He was the Vulture in SpiderMan Homecoming, and he is returning as Batman. We'll see how that goes in The Flash and even Batgirl, but for the most part, seeing Gal Gadot play a villain was just very weird to me, because I know her as Wonder Woman, and I never thought that she would play a role like this. But she actually does a good job of it, playing like the more, you know, snarky female mob boss type thing. Like, it's definitely very interesting where they went with this, but a lot of action's packed into it. Again, the humor, Ryan Reynolds movie, there's got to be some sort of humor, at least in most buddy cop movies there is. So yeah, credit where it's due. It's not cheesy, it's actually really good. But I had to save this one for last. And this is where a lot of the spoilers come in, because really, I can't talk about this movie without mentioning some things without spoiling it, or else there wouldn't be really anything for me to talk about. Spider-Man No Way Home, the thrilling conclusion to the Spider-Man, they like to call it the Home Trilogy, because it was Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home. And No Way Home picks up right where Far From Home left off to begin, where everybody's upset at Spider-Man because now they know he's Peter Parker, and they think that he murdered Mysterio, and was just trying to murder New York City, because, you know, he had all the Stark drones and whatnot. But obviously that wasn't the case, but now the whole world's turned on him, and he asked Doctor Strange to mess with the time loop thing to maybe go back to where people don't remember Peter Parker as Spider-Man. And of course that gets messed up, and we see the classic villains from the 5 Spider-Man movies before this, not Tom Holland's first 2, but I'm talking about the Sam Raimi trilogy villains, Green Goblin, Sandman, and Doc Ock. And the Amazing Spider-Man villains, Electro and Lizard, we see them. And it was kind of paving the way, like you knew that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were going to be in this movie. And I will tell you what, you know, when I saw Doc Ock on that bridge, I was like, yes, Alfred Molina is back. And then all of a sudden you see Willem Dafoe returning as Green Goblin, and it's just all hitting you. And even when I saw Electro, not so much Lizard, but even when I saw Electro, Jamie Foxx returning in that role, I was like, you know, he deserved a second chance with this, and boy, did he make a lot of his second chance. And even the Sandman character was cool too. But it was when Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire appeared that I just started crying tears of joy. I mean, not so much Andrew Garfield. Don't get me wrong, I liked Andrew Garfield. But I clapped, though. I was like, yes, Andrew. But when Tobey Maguire popped out of that portal, oh my god, I was like, oh, there he is, my childhood Spider-Man. Because, yeah, even though I grew up with both of those Spider-Man, I mean, Spider-Man was always Tobey Maguire to me. But Andrew Garfield, he kind of did win me over in this movie. Great script for him on the time when they were on screen, which, spoiler, you see all three Spider-Man together basically when they have their screen time. Like, there's really no time that they're separate other than when Andrew Garfield appears first, and then Tobey Maguire, and then they all meet up with Tom Holland. There's some things here that happen that I won't tell you because it would spoil too much. But in the end, the bad guys figure out that in their own dimensions, they end up dying eventually, so they're kind of trying to stop that. Well, Tom Holland actually wants to cure these bad guys of their, I guess, not powers, but, you know, like Doc Ock. The reason he acts that way is because the chip in his arms was messed up, so he's trying to fix that for him, and he's trying to create an antidote to turn Electro and Lizard and Sandman back to normal people, and he's trying to help Norman Osborn by injecting him with something that second voice in his head, that's Green Goblin, just goes away. Like, he doesn't have that problem anymore, and there's a lot of stuff with him and MJ that go down. Ned actually becomes more interesting, not that he wasn't interesting before, but they give him an arc, like, in this movie that really transcends a lot. And Doctor Strange, not in this movie a ton, like for the first 20 minutes or so he's in it a good bit, but then after that he doesn't really pop in until the end. But god, Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, it's just one of those perfect roles that you can't ignore. So yeah, just a lot happened in that movie, and my fear was I was going to go see this and I was going to be so underwhelmed by it that I was just going to be overall disappointed. But that was the best Spider-Man movie since Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 3, I think a better script would have done better. I like The Amazing Spider-Man 1, not love, but like. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, it's really the only one I hate. It was all over the place, it was confusing, and this trilogy by Tom Holland was actually really good too, but this one was like the first one that I think I didn't have a whole bunch of problems with, or had a problem with at all. Like, everything about it was just so, like, the nostalgia being there, and the fact that my two childhood Spider-Men, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, are just a part of the DCEU now. It's just like, yes, that's what we needed, and that's what we got, and the movie does not disappoint at all. Like, you get your money's worth, you get what you're expecting mostly, and it is just great. Also, the Daredevil cameo, really cool. He doesn't come in as Daredevil, but he ends up being Spider-Man's lawyer, and he's Matthew Murdock, and that was pretty cool. You see him in one scene, that's it, it's cameo, but I think it's setting up another Daredevil series or movie or something, because Kingpin was in the Hawkeye series, Matt Murdock is here in the Spider-Man series, which are in the same universe, so I'm assuming that a Daredevil series or movie is coming soon. So yeah, that's it. That was the 5 worst, 5 best, and my, I guess, again, 3 undecided movies of 2021. You can tell me in the comments below, what were some of your favorite movies that you saw this year, and just also some of the worst ones that you saw this year. Some of them that you either had high hopes for and just didn't like, or ones that you went and saw and just didn't like from the beginning, even if you had high hopes for them or not. So yeah, but let's see what 2022 has to offer. I mean, early on, I got Jackass Forever, which I'm going to go see with my buddy in Seattle. The Batman comes out March 4th. And then I believe there is Aquaman coming out. There's a bunch coming out again next year that I definitely will try to go see, to see where things are, especially in the Marvel Universe, now that that's crazy. And I can't wait to see Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck back as Batman in the Flash movie. That's going to be really, really exciting to me. But yeah, until then, stay safe out there, wear your mask, get vaccinated, and I will catch you all in the next one.
Listen, I'm not in the film.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my god, stop fucking lying.